It's decided. Today, I'm building an iron farm. Iron is heavily used within Create, and my obsession with using girders doesn't help the situation. So I'm going to be building an infinite iron farm here in our new town to supply me with all the iron I've ever needed. But yes, welcome back everyone. I do want this iron farm more or less kind of close to the main town area, and I'm thinking of placing it around about here, next to our little bit of cliff over here. But I do want to do some landscaping and stuff first, because I decided in between episodes that this river that I made going through the caves, I think I also want to actually meet up with the river on this side as well. So we essentially have a river cutting straight through the middle of our eventual town. Now I am going to have to clear out some trees and stuff for that, and also probably remove these sheep, because I think this water is going to quite literally go straight through their pen and come out over here, and I'll probably have to remove some of these crops as well. There we go, there is their new temporary home. Now we can start digging up some of this ground. And so I went ahead and started digging a channel between our cave river and the main river, swapping out my iron shovel with a diamond shovel so I could go at least a little bit quicker. Unfortunately, had to destroy some farmland, which I'll fix at a later date, but I did make sure it was at least as deep as the rest of the cave river. And there we go, there is most of that carved out. I obviously deliberately left in some dams to make sure the water doesn't come flooding in just yet. But I think the next thing to do is actually make these walls look a little bit less weird. So I started placing in a mixture of our mossy cobblestone and tuff along the sides before going back through again with some moss and bone meal to get a nice coverage of greenery. And then started filling in the water one level at a time before breaking open the dam at each end. And there we go. I think that's looking rather nice already. I did add some seagrass, or I guess in this case, river grass, onto the bottom so that it can add even more greenery than we had before. But in general, I think this adds a nice little bit of a split in our village that we can kind of make use of in terms of like setting out the different districts. Obviously, this is probably going to be our main kind of village town area. Behind me is maybe going to be slightly more industrial, and obviously where we're going to have our iron farm. Now, before I actually start building my iron mine, I do want to go and grab a particular material first. Also, the shadows of that sunset were very nice. And that actually involves us going to the mountain behind us, because I was very recently doing some other resource gathering and came across some sulfur caves. All we gotta do is just make our way up here into this cave, and hopefully there's not too many mobs spawned. But as you can see, we kind of have a bit more of a lush cave here at the moment, but at the bottom we got the new sulfur caves, and I am going to need to actually grab a bunch of this sulfur, not too much of it, but at least some. And I'm definitely going to have to make use of some of the new particle effects and stuff from the sulfur mines. Haven't quite figured out exactly what to make with them, but I'm sure I'll think of something. Okay, that should be enough for now, and I believe these caves actually go pretty deep. You can kind of see in the map that they're all over here as well. And actually, if we head back out into the outside again, we can even see that they surface at the top here amongst the Amethyst Canyon. But now I'm going to go grab the rest of the materials so we can actually start building this iron farm. Okay, I've collected most of the things that I need for this build. And honestly, most of it was tough, especially some chiseled tuff, among a few other things as well. But I think before I actually start this build, I want to make myself a jetpack. And these aren't actually too difficult to make, some fans, some brass, but we do need to make a steam engine. And we don't have any automation for this, so I'm probably going to have to do it mostly manually, but it shouldn't be too hard with our new workshop. So let's make 3 of each of these. And we're just going to use our deployer here, so we need a brass sheet, small cogwheel, large cogwheel, propeller, andesite alloy, and just kind of keep going around in that order. And we did successfully make a steam engine the first time, unlike our precision mechanism. If we now just make the rest of the stuff that we need for this craft, and then try and remember what the actual craft looks like. Pretty sure it's just a mixture of this with our steam engine in the middle. Let's quickly double check. I think that's right. And then if we just press this button, okay. Okay, I moved it down by a block, and I'm going to put some of these covers, and now hopefully that should work. Really? No? Okay, I changed the arrow directions, and now it's working. Forgot how annoying these can be sometimes, but at least we got our brass jetpack. Now, the other things I actually need to go with this jetpack are some fueling tanks and some filling tanks. One to hold the fuel and one to hold water. And specifically for our fueling tank, we do need some sturdy sheets, which is from powdered obsidian and some lava. I did go and grab some obsidian, so we can just throw that pretty much all into our crushing wheels here. And lucky for us, there is always a chance of us getting our obsidian actually back from this process. So we might have some additional obsidian. In fact, actually, we got most of our obsidian back. That's actually very convenient. And now what I think I'm going to actually do here is temporarily cut off our water pipe and make sure that this has no water left in it. And then I'm quite literally just going to place my lava here. And that sucked it up. So I can now throw, we'll say 4 for now, onto here. I think, yeah, it takes a bucket per 2. So good thing I grabbed some more lava while I was down getting some obsidian. So there's 4 unprocessed obsidian sheets. And then I can more or less just throw these on to get our sturdy sheets. And then if I make myself 2 fluid tanks, one to turn into our small filling tank, and the other to put our sturdy sheets around, we now have our 2 fueling tanks that we need. Now, obviously, the water one's going to be very easy to fill. We can just go out here and steal from the river. But the lava one's going to be slightly more annoying. But I'm going to come back to my mine real quick and grab some more lava. And we can just fill our tank more or less from here. It can hold on to quite a lot of fuel. And then also grab 2 more buckets because I do want to make this fuel tank bigger at some point. Although I don't remember if it remembers how full it was before upgrading, so I'm not going to upgrade it until it's empty. And then I'll come back and refuel it again. Okay, now I'm back. I probably should have actually taken the jetpack out earlier because I forgot that it auto-fuels itself when I get it out. Both my fuel tanks are now empty. That's okay. We can put this on. Probably going to have to replace our iron plate is what I meant to say. And now in theory, we should be able to just float straight up. Yeah, there we go. We can jetpack around. Obviously, there isn't much fuel in these at the moment. Perhaps I'll actually go and fuel these up a little bit more before we start building. Okay, tanks have been upgraded and filled mostly up. And now we can actually finally get around to building this thing. And we are going to start off with the entrance to this place, using a mix of our tough variants and some deep slate, and it does look weirdly temple-like at the moment, but it will stop looking like that eventually. I do want to add a couple more little features here, including some metal girders and chains that are hanging down, as well as some buttons to go inside of these tough bricks to add a little bit more depth to that, and some copycat steps actually, because I think I want to add a little bit of a trim at the top there. But now I want to continue the wall around the corner, leaving some room for a window and adding a little bit more of our sulfur for a little bit of extra color, before also wrapping it all the way around to leave another gap where I want to input our cobblestone from. Now I did continue some of our details from the front here all the way around with our buttons, some more spruce shelves and some of these vertical stairs to fit around the corners. And like I mentioned, I left a little bit of a gap here because what I'm going to actually do is have a bit of a belt coming all the way down to this wall. And when we get around to it, I'm going to dig through this wall and have like a mini mine shaft. There's not going to actually be any lifts or anything, but the idea is I think I want to place down a cobblestone generator a little bit underground that we can then bring up into the actual farm itself. Oh, and let's not actually forget to place in our window here. I'm going to use some of this weathered iron window pane. Probably one of my favorite window types from Create. Now we're going to continue the wall on the other side of the entrance, including a big window frame to let some light in, as well as build up a bit of a chimney above to give this place a more of a factory vibe. And then I just went ahead and finished the rest of the sides of the building with the same design as the rest of it. There we go. There is the main bottom part of the structure done. I did clear out the inside, so there's no longer a big old hill in the way. And of course, finished up the walls at the back, making sure to add all my little button details, all my sulfur stairs and whatnot. And now I just want to add something a little bit more to this roof so it's not quite as flat as it currently is. So I went ahead and built up a bit of a clock tower-like structure with a mix of our chiseled tough and deep slate like before, and then added a flywheel in front for decoration. I then continued using the granite and jungle plank mix for the roof and finished up with a mix of fence gates and tough walls for the other side of the building. I And I think the very last thing I want to do for now for this exterior of the building is place some of these brass girders down for the kind of clock tower bit. I think we're pretty much done. I think I do want to add some things externally to this building. Obviously, I still need to build my kind of mine shaft here up into the side of this. Maybe add a couple of like copper pipes and stuff too coming out into the river down here. Now it's time to actually get this iron farm working. I'm going to actually first do that by making a little bit of a mine shaft on the side here. The main idea being that this is where our cobblestone generator is going to be placed down a little bit underground. And I do want to use some of our spruce logs here, I think, to surround this mine shaft, throwing in some different chipped variants like our overgrown ones and some of this reinforced. And we can even throw in some fence gates just to make it look a bit more interesting on top. I then decided that I actually wanted to reinforce this wall a little bit more with some of our different spruce logs and some fences, kind of also match with the mine shaft. And with that wall looking much more reinforced, let's actually start digging down to where I'm going to have this cobblestone gen. Now actually this one's not going to be too deep because I realized there is apparently a whole biome underneath here that I was not aware of before. Oh, it's even got the special pitcher plants. That's nice. But I'll continue clearing out some of this for our generator. There we go. Nice big empty room for us. Now we are just going to place a vault pretty much directly in the middle here. And I'm not going to actually make it too big at the moment, mainly because I don't have that much iron. Hence why we're making the iron farm. But I think a 5x3x3 vault will do for now. And we can throw some andesite funnels down on top with some of our cobblestone. And just because we don't have that much vertical space, I'm going to put the drills to the side of it, I think. Then we can use our encased chain drives behind them and then connect them up back here. Of course, we do have some room at the back for adding a little bit of extension when we need it in the future. Do need to cover up actually below these because we're going to actually put the water inside the drills themselves, because that is possible to do and honestly very convenient. Let's add our water. And the last thing we need is some lava, which actually I already have a bucket of, so we can just have that move in between. Actually, let's put it slightly more centered for now to make sure it actually spreads correctly. And of course, this all needs powering, so I'm actually just going to throw down some water wheels. And I threw them at the back here, there's about 10 of them. And then I already went ahead and made a rotational speed controller. We'll probably make this 128 for now. Not 100% sure if that's going to be enough for what we need for this. Let's hook this all up. And yeah, 128 I think appears to work. And so now we are generating our cobblestone, and that's going into our big old item vault here. Can we increase any speed to this? No, we cannot. Okay, let's keep it at 128 for now then. And of course, now that we are generating our cobblestone, we need to get it out of here. And actually, I'm going to just turn this off a little bit because otherwise the noise is going to drive me crazy. I'm just going to more or less use a belt to connect up over here. And this is the point where I'd actually normally use our chutes and some fans, but I'm being slightly more conscious about the lag of chutes and stuff as I make this world. So I'm actually going to do it slightly differently, and I'm going to use some spruce barrels from Sophisticated Storage and a connector block going all the way up with a different container at the top here, because I think if I understand how these work correctly, I can place a funnel onto this and bring out anything from this up here. And if we just hook up this belt actually to our main system, make sure to reconnect this again. Oh, we do need to turn this around. There we go. We now have cobblestone going into there. And in theory, if I also get some power up here, and actually I hooked up the power to that, but I think we actually need to throw down a storage controller here instead. And yeah, there we go. Our cobblestone is coming out the top here. Very nice. Let me just remove that real quick till we are ready for it. And I'm going to replace this with a brass one so we can get them moving up 64 at a time instead. Now that we actually have the belt outside, I think we can start placing down where we want this to go into the wolf with. You know, actually, let's place some lanterns out here because it is pretty dark at night. But there's our belt going all the way up to the top and into our factory. I think I do actually want this to be about 3 wide so it doesn't look quite as small. And then I accidentally crafted 4 stacks of shafts. That is not what I wanted. Well, at least I won't run out anytime soon. Now we can kind of start building the inside of this place. I do want to actually add some lighting around first, as it is a little bit dark in here, and it will probably be easier to see if I do so. And I think I'd actually like some more natural light to come into here as well. So I'm actually going to break some of the ceiling here. And that definitely helps. You can kind of see compared to this side how much brighter it looks. So I'm going to definitely do that on both sides. And I think especially at the top here, I'm going to just use some of our jungle trapdoors. And then I think I'm going to use some of the weathered iron windows below. Although I am going to need to get some more iron to actually make more of those. Okay, there we go. There is our skylights in. Now we need to figure out exactly what to do with these crushing wheels. I think I'm just going to place them pretty much directly at the end of these belts. And I do want to make sure that 64 at a time go into these, but unfortunately we can't actually do that with the smart chutes. So I'm going to place down an item vault beforehand with our 3 different brass belt funnels and some andesite ones on the other side. Then I'm just going to put the filter in for all our cobblestone and set this to exactly 64. So we're making full use of these crushing wheels. Now the actual floor is going to be raised up by 1 compared to where it currently is. So the belt is actually probably going to be quite close to the crushing wheels here, but that's fine. I'm going to stretch 3 along from underneath. And luckily that it will drop straight down to the belt and move along. Now, of course, once our cobblestone has been grinded down by our crushing wheels into gravel, we can then wash that gravel to get us some flint and also iron nugget, which is obviously what we need. So I need to place down some fans underneath here. I'm probably going to make this about 7 wide to make sure that it has enough time to actually go over. And we can surround this with some more of our chisel tough blocks and fill this with water. And all of that will help any kind of gravel moving over this belt to be washed. Now, of course, I do need to make sure that this is all hooked up together. We can bring the power from our belt into our crushing wheels. And just because I like symmetry, I'm going to do it on both sides. But I think in theory, I can't actually let this connect up properly because otherwise it will break. I'll leave it off on one side for now, but we have it there for symmetry. In fact, actually, we could bring this down and head underground a little bit so we can power the fans. And we can just use our encased chain drives again to move these all along, connect them up at the end, and connect them to the rest of the belt line. Although now that I think about it, I do want this belt and probably the fans as well to go as slow as they can, because the speed of the fans doesn't matter in terms of washing them. And I do need to make sure that the belt goes slow enough for them to actually be washed. So I'm going to use a rotational speed controller here and shove that in between our 2 crushing wheels. And we can reduce this to like 8, I think. And then I can probably use our encased chain drives to come down here instead. There we go. That should be all connected up properly. And then after this, we just need to keep the belts going. I think I'm going to split the belt here though, because I don't think it's going to be able to go far enough otherwise. And all we need to do here on the other side is have our 3 basins. You can have some andesite belt funnels going into there, some presses on top, making sure that they're facing the right way. And I also need to put in the iron ingots into our basins to make sure that's the only thing that it's making. And then at the end here, I'm actually just going to have a spruce barrel with multiple funnels going into it. Now, typically I would use vaults for this. The nice thing about these barrels from sophisticated storage is that you can upgrade these over time, and they only take up 1 block. And so therefore aren't as taxing, and should hopefully keep the lag down when we have more stuff over here. Now, if we just finish off connecting these up with some belts, I think, because I like how the way that looks rather than the chain drives. Throw in some casing on the sides to make that look a little bit better. And then I'm also going to throw in industrial iron to go down the size of this as well. I think deliberately leaving a gap above the water, even though it's not actually necessary. I actually just remembered I need to go underneath here, place some smart chutes down. set them to only filter out our flint, as I don't really have any main use for it right now, and throw in some lava underneath. That way any flint kind of coming along here just gets burnt, and the iron nuggets go into our presses. Now, of course, we do need to power all this, so I'm going to throw down a bunch of water wheels. I'm probably going to actually need more than that, but we're going to start off with this amount and try and crank this up as high as we can, which is going to overstress it. And actually, if I added a few more wheels instead of 128, that does give us a pretty good speed. Although I think these are rotating the wrong way around. Okay, there we go. I just turned around the rotational speed controller. So these are going pretty fast, but our belt and our fans underneath are going slow. That saves us a bunch of power. So I just grab a stack of cobblestone and throw that in. One of these should be crushing it down, and I think it's this one. Comes out here as a full stack of gravel. Now, actually, I might need to make it half a stack, because I'm not sure if it's going to actually get washed in time. Let's see what happens. Okay, no, it doesn't. Okay, that's fine. Let's reduce these down to 32, and we can try it again. And 32 is enough. Yeah, there we go. It managed to split about here. And these iron nuggets should move forwards while these get dropped down underneath. There you go. Those go in there. And there's currently only 6 iron nuggets in this. So they can't make an ingot just yet. But it does all seem to be working, which is what I wanted. Now I think I'm going to decorate this space a little bit more. We've got plenty of this tiny stone brick, which I'm going to cover most of the floor in. And then with my mech trap, I think I'm just going to go around and throw in some of these kind of cracked bricks everywhere. And some of these mossy variants as well. Just add a little bit of texture to the floor that's not just the same kind of material all the way across. But now let's make this look a little bit more interesting. I think I'm actually going to remove some of these blocks here and bring them out by one. And replace these with some glowstone. And do that on the other side as well. And as for above here, I think I actually want to use some of these andesite beams to essentially go over the top. And we're going to have 2 of them, but I'm going to remove the middle block. Just throw an encased chain drive for now. And add some of these fans. Now, do these do anything? No. But I think it at least helps give the impression that they're being washed. And then on top of them, I want to add some of these other types of cog wheels and chain them up so that they spin around. I think with a little help of the power from here, we're going to bring this up and add another one to above these and do it on the same side over here as well. Now, these are rotating in opposite directions, so once again, I think I'm going to kind of fake having symmetry here by just placing a normal andesite casing and then one over the shaft there, and then just hook all these up. So we get a nice loop like that. And there we go, they are now spinning our fans for us. And that adds a little bit of interest, and I did go and throw in a glowstone in the middle here as well, for a little bit of extra light. And then over here, I'm actually just going to do something very simple with some of this industrial iron sheet metal and some of these andesite trusses going over. And then I'm just going to put some lightning rods at the bottom. This obviously doesn't actually do anything, but I don't know, it just adds to the industrial aesthetic, and also that is where the flint does drop out of. So I don't know, maybe these are the things that magically make the flint go away. It's best not to think about it too hard. But let's continue with the decorating with some custom catwalks near the crushing wheels to help go over our belts, and add a little bit of decorative storage on top. Before moving on to add a raised area at the back of the factory with some scaffolding, and a couple of stockpiles of blocks spilling out slightly. I then opted to actually add a copper pipe going into the washing station before snaking out to the outside and into the river, and then finished up with some andesite beams for the ceiling of the factory, and some brass beams and casings for the belts coming out of the cobblestone generator. And that's pretty much the interior of the factory done. We of course have our copper pipe going out to the outside. I did add a couple of vertical stairs and some of these trapdoors around it to make it look a little bit more interesting, including to the outside as well. Although apparently I did forget one. There we go. And of course on the inside we do have this kind of custom catwalk that I made, which is using some of the andesite scaffolding and some of this andesite catwalk from Design and Decor. And the nice thing about this stuff is, for example, it can kind of act like cushions in the new updates where you can place it at pretty much any level, which is very convenient to be honest. So we were able to cover the scaffolding with that and then make this one slightly higher above the belts. because otherwise the belts kind of push you along while standing along it. But we can obviously move across without being dragged along. And I have had this iron farm running for just a little bit. You can kind of see the fans definitely help with making these look like they're being washed with all the particles and stuff. And we have just a stack and a half of iron in there at the moment. And obviously that will build up slowly over time. And of course we have all our cobblestone coming out of our generator here, going up using our sophisticated storage and then getting spit out by this brass tunnel so that all the belt lines are being used. Now I do want to finish off decorating outside here. So I'm going to actually make a little bit of a girder bridge here. Not one for walking across though. And the general idea of this I want this to be is essentially we're moving all the iron over the other side of the river. As obviously this would be very heavy and dangerous for any potential bridge that goes across for people. So this would just help get all the iron across to the rest of the village where people need it. And honestly, I guess this is where I'm going to be using all these extra shafts that I made accidentally earlier, which is honestly kind of convenient. We can even make sure this structure stays stable with the help of some of these girder struts. A little bit of extra support on the sides. And for the actual lift itself, I think I just want to have a very simple girder structure with some of these big industrial chains coming out of it. And I'm going to use these metal brackets to kind of attach them to the shaft, although I think I actually need to come from above for this. Yeah, there. That looks a lot better. Then we can use our trapdoors for the middle here. And actually I can replace these down so that they actually look like they're attached to the trapdoors. Then I'm going to add some of this iron sheet metal, as this is going to be the stuff that is actually moving across to the other side. And there we go. I think that helps add a structure that makes sense with this area to help bring across all the stuff that the villagers need. But I finished up the decorating with some dirt paths leading down to a new wooden bridge made out of some trapdoors and fences before connecting up the path to the rest of the village. But yeah, there we go. That's pretty much it. We've got our bridge and we've got our path leading up to the town. I did add a little bit of foliage at the front of our iron farm as well. Yeah, now we finally have a proper source of iron. So I don't have to keep mining for it all the time. Yes, we definitely got quite a few stacks now after all that building and stuff that I just did. It's going to be very useful for next week's episode, which is going to be our storage. Because my house is getting pretty full of barrels. And it's starting to look maybe slightly out of place. So that is the next thing that we are going to solve. But anyway, thanks everyone for watching today. I appreciate it. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye for now.